Today we welcome Ambassador Robert E. Lighthizer, the United States Trade Representative, to discuss U.S.-China trade. One of the challenges for the ambassador, members of the committee, and the administration indeed is the following: that as trade issues play out, there is generally some truth to what everybody says about trade. At the direction of the Trump administration, there are currently U.S. tariffs of $250 billion on Chinese imports. In retaliation, China has imposed tariffs on $110 billion of U.S. exports. This hearing is our opportunity to make clear what Congress stands for on U.S.-China trade and what the American people need to see in any trade agreement as the administration concludes its work in memorandums of understanding with China. At the outset, I want to acknowledge that Ambassador Lighthizer is leading negotiations with China and that he may want to exercise discretion about the level of detail he gets into as we reach the delicate stage of finishing, hopefully, the agreement. At the same time, I encourage the ambassador to be as forthcoming and vigorous as we know he is capable of doing as possible. I have often observed that there is truth, again, as I noted earlier, to what everybody says about China. China has been good for some, but it also has been bad for many others. In 2000, when Congress voted on normalizing trade relations with China, the promise was that China would reform and become market-based, democratic, and would respect human rights. But the China that we trade with and compete with today is very different from the one that we had hoped would emerge. China's economy, which has taken on some market characteristics, remains fundamentally state-directed. China's companies, state-owned or not, are called upon to serve the government's interests. China's trade and economic policies are coordinated through 5-year and 10-year plans. Those plans are backed by China's resources. They are aimed at fostering national champions, advancing China's economic and technological ambitions, and ensuring full employment in China. And they are implemented at the expense of other economies through the theft of others' intellectual property and without regard to the global trade rules or human rights of workers. These are structural economic challenges that American workers and companies face in trading and competing with China. While this administration confronts the same challenges with China that previous administrations have faced, it has chosen to use tactics and tools that previous administrations of both parties did not. The administration's tariffs have been sweeping, disruptive, controversial, and indeed, for some sectors, painful. The administration's promise is that high-risk approaches will yield high rewards. My concern is that we are about to see the administration use the same, from time to time, ineffective playbook that has been applied in the past. Recall that in April 2017, President Trump met with President Xi at Mar-a-Lago as part of a 100-day plan for a big China deal. The Commerce Secretary declared that outcomes from the exercise represented more than has been done in the whole history of U.S.-China relations. Of course, when we examined the results of these negotiations, we found that some of the commitments were not quite as advertised. Other commitments that were made promising changes in China were already in the process of being made. But in May of last year, China's trade negotiations seemed like it was about to lead to a package of large purchase commitments for commodities like soybeans, natural gas, along with aircraft. Those negotiations clearly were not leading to the solution that we had hoped for in terms of significant trade challenges. They indeed were put on hold. This time around, on December 1st, the President announced a 90-day period to fix our complex trade problems with China. And as we near the finish line, we are hearing once again about very large purchase commitments for commodities like soybeans, natural gas, and along with aircraft. There is a primary difference, however, with these negotiations. That is that Ambassador Lighthizer is at the helm. He has time and again, I think, developed a vision that many of us on this committee will support vigorously, and we believe that the structural problems that faces America as it bases its trade relationship with China are well observed by the ambassador. This administration has chosen to take a path of high-risk confrontation. It must hold out for the good deal, a structural deal. The future of America's economic prosperity is in the balance.